Today I'm with Brenda Luoma. Brenda is one of our service coordinators at Eastern. She has been with Eastern Controls for 17 years, and very happy to have her on my podcast today. Brenda, welcome to my podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So Brenda, as a service coordinator at Eastern Controls, what does a service coordinator do? Like, what's your role? What do you do?
Okay. Well, first of all, when anyone contacts the service department, they will be talking to me, or they will be talking to Kyle DeVinny. Kyle DeVinny has been here 13 years, and like you said, I've been here 17 years. So the both of us handle all the service coordination. We get either a phone call from the customer, we'll get an email, we'll talk to the salesperson. So we get it coming to us, at a lot of different avenues. When we talk to the customer, we ask what kind of service that they want. We obviously check the location, the point of contact. We get a quote prepared and we send them a quote. Once the quote is sent to the customer, we usually also put in there the next available day that we have on the calendar pending the purchase order. We then, once we get the PO, we enter it into the system. We schedule the service.
Wow.
Every time we schedule the service, we make sure that the salesman is copied. So if they want to go with their service tech onto a service call, they can.
I've done that, by the way. So I've done that several times. So it's actually an interesting trip.
Yeah, I think it's good for the customer also. And then after the service is done, they fill out their paperwork, the field service sheet. Once we get that, we process the invoice. So we do it from the beginning to the end, from the quoting stage all the way to the invoice stage.
Wow. Yes, that's a lot of steps. I was in one of our pre-discussions. We were talking about how our service company and service division has really morphed and grown quite a bit over the years. So there's a lot of moving pieces. It's really pretty challenging. And speaking of challenges, so okay, service coordinator. That's when everything rolls fine. Everything just falls in place. But what are some of the biggest challenges? Like, for instance, a couple weeks ago, and I noticed next week, it looks like there's snow in the forecast a couple days. What do you do when it snows? And some customers might say, hey, we don't need you today because our crew's not going to be here. Other people are like, hey, we need you anyway because hey, we're a food processing plant. We got to make food. I mean, how do you manage some of the, what are some of the challenges? How do you manage?
Some of the challenges are if a customer cancels for weather, especially if our technicians are working outside. Obviously, their safety is, paramount. We don't want them getting hurt or anything. So we do work with the customer for weather situations like that. We also have to keep an eye on anything that's happening. Obviously, we had jobs scheduled in the DC area. We had to change them. Just because of everything that was happening in DC with, the new president and stuff like that. So we do have to schedule jobs around what is happening, the weather or whatever. The hardest thing is when something's scheduled and then the customer cancels, or we have to cancel for a certain reason, is just trying to get the technician to get to another location. So that's our biggest challenge, because we obviously want to keep the technicians busy, keep them out on the road as much as we can. So that's the one big challenge.
It's interesting you said that, because I was with one of our techs a few weeks ago at a site, and quite frankly, the customer, they weren't, I won't say weren't prepared, but it's really what happened. They just weren't prepared they didn't do the proper front end work, and we had put it in writing to them, hey, you need to do this, this, and this, and there was a miscommunication internally. And, I know that happens on occasion.
Right.
And, our tech was sitting there and he goes, I know he called you, and you're like, okay, he goes, oh man, he goes, I got to bolt over here now. So he says, boom, you're going to another site. So, and then you're managing that flow. What about the challenges? I mean, a little less than a year ago, Brenda, we went into a pandemic, COVID, and in my world, I was coming back from Sedona, and I think you were actually coming back from Florida,
Yes,
right?
I was, yes. And it all changed when we got back.
Yeah, like, whoa, what's going on? And I thought, oh, this will last a few weeks, maybe a month, and we'll come out of this thing. And here we are, almost a year later. And how have you managed that? How have you managed that with the company and with the techs as far as COVID is concerned? I mean, it's how have we managed through that?
Yeah, so now we have a mandatory COVID form that we send to the customers prior to the technician arriving on site. Obviously, it's 3 questions. If any of them are answered yes, then we go back to the customer and we honestly ask them for their COVID safety policy for their company. That way we know that they have a policy in place, they're taking this serious. We don't want to obviously harm the customer or our technician, so we want to be prepared to go on site with knowing what we're walking into.
Okay.
So that's a mandatory form that we have the customer fill out.
Good. Yeah, I know our guys and gals are. I mean, they've been on the front line with this thing, so they really did it. I mean, how busy have we been in the last year?
We honestly have been busy. We've been working through the pandemic. We've been scheduling customers. Obviously, like I said, taking precautions, having this form filled out, talking to the customers. A lot of them, when the technician arrives on site, a lot of times they have protocol that they have to follow. They have training procedure, or they have obviously to get their temperature checked and stuff like that. So, but on both sides, we have to follow their procedures and our procedures. So a lot of times when the technician arrives on site, there is other things that they have to do before they attend the service.
And Brenda, you manage mostly the engine Hauser service part of it, and then Kyle Devaney manages the valve portion of it. Is that?
Yeah. So right now I take care of all the Anderson Hauser, and I take care of all the Kaiser work that is being scheduled and quoted. Kyle primarily takes care of the MSA and the valve work that is being done in the shop and also being done at customers' locations. Obviously, we are cross-trained, so if Kyle or I are out, we can cover for each other. But primarily, we try to keep it separated because then I'm working with the same customers and he is also, so it works out better that way.
There's a continuity to it. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So Brenda, I thank you for giving us some really 30,000 square foot view of how what you folks do a little bit, and just kind of giving us some good bullet points. All right, you're a service coordinator. End of the day, you're sitting out your husband over dinner or something. You say, you know what, I really feel good about this today. About Eastern or something you did for a customer. Why don't we share a success story or something like what makes this job worthwhile? What makes it fun? What puts like that pride? Because I know you have a lot of pride in your job, so I know you do. I live it and I see it all the time with you. But what makes you proud? What's your success story with Eastern Controls you can share with our viewers?
I think the number one thing is when a customer calls and they're down and they need emergency service, and we can jockey the schedule around and talk to the technician, make sure he's prepared and help the customer out and get the customer up and running. I mean, that is obviously the best thing that we want to do as a service department. So that's a big thing. Like, we had an emergency yesterday. It came in at like 4:30. We sent the quote to the customer. We got it scheduled, and a technician's on site today. So wow. That's one of the positive things, helping the customer out. Obviously, it makes them happy, and it all works out in our favor also. So that is like the best thing to do.
I've been part of that drumbeat several times, and you're right. Sometimes it's a call from a customer, it's a call from the salesperson saying, "Hey, a customer just called me. We've got an emergency situation. And we offer 24/7 support. So
yes. So we offer 24/7 support. So if a customer calls after hours, and they call the number, once they leave once they talk to and or leave a message, that is sent to 10 different people. So in 10 areas. So we always make sure that somebody obviously responds back to the customer immediately. So that's another thing that obviously that we have, that's available for our customers.
that's really cool. And again, I've lived through that as well and seen our support there. It's excellent. Brenda, thanks very much for joining me on my podcast today. I got one personal question for you, wrapping things up. Gotta hit you with it, because I missed it last year. You run our tailgating at the Eagles. I mean, and I love going to a game and having a beer and a hot dog or a burger or some chicken and hanging out with the customers. How much did you miss not being able to hang out at the Eagles games this past year?
Yes, I do very, very much. I do miss that a lot. It is nice to go to the games. We obviously invite couples to come, and then we have usually two salespeople. So it's a good time to kick back, talk a little, about service and about stuff like that. So, I mean, I do really miss that. Obviously the tailgates are a lot of fun. This year we definitely missed it, but now we got a new coach, so we'll see what happens.
New coach, maybe a new quarterback. We're not sure yet.
Yeah, we're not. It's a little, it's a little up in the air right now. So
typical Philly, right?
Yeah, exactly. So.
All right, Brenda. Hey, thanks very much for sharing your time with me today, and folks watching this podcast. Hey, 24/7 service. You have some you have a need, not opportunity, but you have a need for service. Reach out to us at Eastern Controls. We'll be happy to help you. Thanks a lot for tuning in. And again, Brenda Luoma, thanks very much for joining me on my podcast. We'll see you.
Thank you. Thank you.